There's some type of drama it appears we're not going to have. Every other kind we've had, but the open convention, a bunch of Democrats throwing their hats in the ring, that appears to not be in the cards. Looks like Kamala has this wrapped up. Or are we speaking too soon?
Well, these op-eds that we saw about a blitz primary being held, where the Democrats would select among all of their fantastic candidates and decide on a nominee. Well, that didn't happen. It took about 30 hours from when Joe Biden announces that he's not going to run again at about 1:45 Eastern Time on Sunday till last night, where Kamala Harris announces that she has the support of a majority of the delegates to the Democratic National Convention, and therefore she is the presumptive nominee. Now, you have to wonder whether this kind of action is followed by a hangover at some point, and Democrats look at themselves and say, wow, why didn't we think about this a little more? But obviously the party was absolutely desperate to have a candidate after the whole Biden drama.
It's weird because desperation sometimes takes you to bad places. I believe it was desperation based on horrible headlines, horrible narratives. It was that kind of desperation that led the Biden team to agree to that debate. And we can see how that worked out. Now it might be desperation that leads them to congeal behind somebody. I mean, she is vice president. Might that backfire too? We got a few days to August 19th when the convention makes it official. We're not done with this news cycle.
No, but I have said and written, I'm sure I've said it on this program, that I found it, and this was well before Joe Biden had withdrawn, I found it impossible that the Democratic Party, which is obsessed with identity, especially race and gender, would dump the first female vice president of color in favor of somebody else who just polls a little better. I just found that impossible the Democratic Party would do that. Still, I was a little surprised at this total stampede to Harris. It's slightly reminiscent, if you remember, Joe Biden in the 2020 Democratic primaries was just dead in Iowa and dead in New Hampshire, and then brought back to life in South Carolina by James Clyburn. And then all of a sudden there was this kind of weird stampede to Biden. I think South Carolina was on a Saturday and Super Tuesday was the next Tuesday, 3 days later, and boom, he became the nominee. So this is another one of these lightning fast choices by Democrats. It wasn't really a very good choice on their part. Obviously, he couldn't serve an entire term without having to withdraw from his reelection campaign. But they've done it again, even faster, with Kamala Harris.
Is there any meaning to the non-endorsement so far of Barack Obama?
I don't know. I think there's something to it. Was it the Babylon Bee that did this headline? Obama reassures America that he's still
president. Yes.
Because obviously the big four were Schumer and Jeffries in the Senate and the House, and then Nancy Pelosi, because she's in charge of everything on Capitol Hill apparently, and Barack Obama, and the three of those have basically come out in favor of Harris, and Obama is being quiet, and I find that a little odd because clearly he was a voice. He was a voice first in covering up Biden's problems, because after that fundraiser in which Obama literally guided Biden off the stage, Obama did not come out and say, well, Biden is just really not up to another campaign. He didn't say that. Didn't say anything until the debate happened. So, I think his silence means something. The only problem is I don't know what it means.
I have a possibility, and I can't channel anybody or read any minds, but if there's anything Barack Obama does not want, it's to wind up being on the wrong side of the way history is written. You might see an endorsement from him even later today if the writing is in bold Sharpie on the wall. But if he perceives that there is still a smidge of the possibility of the pendulum swinging back, of Democrats going, oh no, what have we done here? And all of a sudden things opening back up again. He might wait until after it's all official at the actual convention. But hey, what do I know? Byron York is here. A couple of quick things before we're done. What I asked David M. Drucker what this does to Trump. Does Trump campaign strategy change, or hey, policies are policies? He says he doesn't care who he runs against.
Well, it certainly changes a little bit because people are people, and Harris is not Biden. So I mean, I'm sure he'll tailor some attacks specifically for her. But on the other hand, she owns all of the Biden policies that Trump was talking about every day, specifically the border. I mean, she owns the whole thing. Everything that Biden did, you can accuse Harris of doing too, and of intending to continue. So everything that happened during the Biden administration, Harris is responsible for that. But I mean, I always thought with Biden there were three major weaknesses, which were his age, the border, and inflation. Well, the age thing has gone away, obviously. It's not right.
One of three.
And then that was his biggest vulnerability. But the border and inflation, or what Republicans sometimes call the affordability crisis, are very, very real things, and they're completely the property of Vice President Harris at this moment.
And as such, we now have a story about vetting materials requested of some people. Lightning round. North Carolina Governor Roy Cooper, nah, not famous enough. Josh Shapiro, nope, Jewish. Or am I wrong about that?
I don't know. I think Shapiro would be a perfectly fine vice presidential candidate.
I do. You do.
Actually, we had a Jewish vice presidential candidate, didn't we?
That was 100 years ago, Byron. I mean, that was Joe Lieberman. Democrats liked Jews when Joe Lieberman was the running mate.
Didn't they win the popular vote? As a matter of fact,
yes, but that's a million years ago.
This Shapiro stuff. I'm not. I don't place a lot of stock in. I think he'd be a perfectly fine Democratic vice president, and although there have been others like Whitmer who said I'm not doing it, which I found kind of odd, but we'll see.
Yeah, they asked for vetting materials from her as well. Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker, Arizona Senator Mark Kelly, who looks like central casting a pretty good choice, but I don't think they want to vacate that Senate seat.
No, that's a big vulnerability for them. I mean, it's Kelly is. It's kind of interesting how he just kind of popped up into the whole national conversation. Even a possibility for president when they were still talking about having some sort of blitz primary. But you're right. I mean, he was an astronaut. He's a senator. So he's a very accomplished man. But right now people are still trying to get kind of wrap their heads around what has happened in the last 48 hours. It hasn't been 48 hours yet since Biden withdrew, and he seems to be kind of hiding or sulking. I know he spoke by phone to the Harris event yesterday,
yes.
Which was almost kind of inappropriately giddy yesterday. I thought,
yeah, wow. It was weird. The whole thing was weird. It's the strangest of circumstances that's led to all of this, and she's got that big weird smile. Well, hey, at least we're all here to chronicle it together.